Hello, everyone. It's Devon from the Maniology team back with another live at Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. You can find us here on another nail stamping journey. Whether it's tutorial, technique, or hack, we're here to discuss the details, and we're so glad you could join. Also, if you haven't, we highly recommend you hit that subscribe button so that way you can stay up to date with all of our newest video launches every single time we go live, anytime we do our subscription box unboxing. That way you get notified for all of those fun things. And yeah, we love having you be a part of our community. So make sure you hit subscribe and tell us how you feel about our lives in the comments or any of our videos. We love hearing your feedback. Okay, so today, if you haven't guessed from the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about plate M593, which is our castle themed plate. And I'm going to be talking about this now because it's a newer launch. However, I just found out that we are running lower in stock. So if you want it, make sure you grab it soon. I know that we have some coming in about a week or two, but highly recommend you pick it up if you love it and you want it, because again, we are running a bit lower. So the theme that we're going to be working on is basically the product image on the product page. We always have our graphic designers create like a little mock-up of what the design will look like when it's stamped onto your nails and all the fun things that you can do. But I saw some comments and questions of like, how do we get that effect? Here, let me see if I can bring this closer to you. So, long nail problems. I'm just gonna scoot this up to the side. So I think a lot of people are asking, how can we recreate the look? What do we need to do? And today I'm going to talk about it and show you guys how you can create that look that you saw in the product images. So to get started, you're going to want to have your magnetic bar. I know a lot of times we don't do this, but I think today I'm going to do it because I know people always ask, what is this bar? What is the tacky stuff on here? So the tacky stuff on here is Uhu Sticky Putty, which can be purchased at any like office supply store. I know Office Depot, places like that have it. You could probably even find it at like Walmart or Walgreens. Sometimes they have it in the office section. I feel like you could even find this stuff at like a Dollar Tree. And we put it all over our little magnetic stand so that way it makes it easy and simple to attach our tips. And when it gets, because sometimes it'll get like not sticky after using it several times. And if it does, you can always just pull it off and squish it up a little bit, and then it'll get sticky again. So today I'm showing you guys exactly how we do this. And if you want to purchase it, we have it on our site. And I believe not the Uhu Putty, but the nail tip stand with all these little magnetic pieces. And then I think you can either use Uhu Putty or you can use your sticky tabs for press on nails. If you have sizes of sticky tabs that do not fit you, I've used those before instead of Uhu Putty. So look, once I put it on, it's pretty strong and pretty firm. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and put this one on. Here we go. Let's see, yep, nice and sturdy. Okay, then you're going to need a sponge, a makeup wedge, preferably one that is been dipped in water and then you just squeeze all the water out. So in case you want to know what that looks like and what the difference is, this one does not have water and this one got dipped in water and then I squeezed out all the excess. it's better to use a wet sponge for the technique we're going to do. And if you haven't seen, we are going to be doing a radial ombre. So I'm going to be using the color Honu and the color, I think, give me one sec. Blue ribbon. So we're going to use blue ribbon and Honu, these two colors. And then we're also going to be using straight up black. And we're also going to be using candy apple red. So these are the colors we'll be using today in our live. But first, let's start off with these two. So in order to do a radial ombre, you're going to go ahead and you can paint a rectangle or a circle. I've done it both ways, actually. I tried doing a rectangle this past time when I was making the sample image, and I realized it also worked for creating that effect. So this time I'm doing a rectangle. Try to make sure it's around the same size as your nail. And then you're just going to go ahead and apply polish like this. So for this, I really glob it on, especially the lighter color. I'll glob it on. And then I wait for the polish. Oops, that's a little bit too much. I'll wait for the polish to kind of get absorbed into the sponge. So you're able to see it in real time. You see how the polish is kind of being absorbed by that sponge. So you'll see like a glob, and then all of a sudden it'll get smooth again. So we should have something that looks like this. Then you're going to want to go ahead and take back of paper, or you can use your mat. I don't want to because then I'm going to have to wipe that up later. And you're just going to go ahead and sponge it out until you have something like this. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and add more of that blue right in the center, because the color is so dark that you want to make sure there's a nice contrast. Then I'll go ahead and even switch the sponge, because I know that a lot of polish gathered on this side, so I want to make sure it evens out. Okay, there we go. And then you're just going to want to go ahead and sponge. Like that. Let me move this out of the way. Let's do it again. If it's not perfectly in the center, you'll have an opportunity to kind of correct that. So sometimes when I'm sponging, you'll notice that I kind of move the nail from side to side. Or I'll move the sponge from side to side. And then we're going to go ahead do that. And well, we're starting to run out of polish. You can tell because the tip now is not fully covered. So I'm going to go ahead and apply more of that blue in the center. And I'm being very generous with it, as you can see. And then we'll do the teal around. I think painting it like a rectangle, the teal part, makes it easier. Then I'm just gonna squeeze. Yeah. And do more of the blue. Okay, there we go. So let's try again. So I have to turn it to the side because obviously I can't see through the sponge. So if I turn it to the side like that, I have a better idea of getting it centered. So there. Now let me just kind of go over those other tips. And if it's not perfect, it's okay because we still have to stamp on top of this. So we have opportunities to kind of hide some things that maybe didn't turn out perfectly. Also, I wanted to say, how is everybody? I went straight into the nail art and the demo, but I forgot to check in with my A team. How are all of you? I hope you guys are doing well. Did we eat today? Shout out to all the wonderful people who help keep our lives going and keep the conversation flowing, aka Grandma Mimsy, Bees, Dee. How are all of you? I know there's many of you who are always so awesome and help out, and I really appreciate it because, as you can see, I am very focused on the nails. Okay, so this is what we ended up with, something like this. And again, if it's not perfect, it's okay. Don't worry about it because you will have opportunities after to kind of hide any imperfections, or if you didn't have a perfectly smooth gradient, it's all good. Don't gotta worry about it. So let me make sure I pull up this inspo image because I realize that it's gonna be kind of tricky for me to show you all how to do this if I don't have the image right next to me. So give me one sec. All right, here we go. Okay, we have things ready. So I may or may not, just a heads up, I may or may not have to make some slight adjustments because I feel like the nail tips that were used for the product image, they were longer, but I wanted to use shorter nail tips because I know that's kind of more realistic to what a lot of people have. And then also slightly wider tips so that way you guys could see the imagery nice and big. So let's I'll start with the easier ones and then we'll branch out to the harder ones because the harder ones are going to involve a little bit of reverse stamping, while the easier ones should be fairly simple, fairly simple after we do our stamping process. So let me get my bib because you all know I just really, really do not like having to clean up the polish after. Oh gosh, hold on, let me just go. Well, that did not go as planned. Now I have a longer weird bib. It's all right. So if this ever happens to you, or you're done using your sticky stamper paper, you can always use this as a palette, which I know you guys know. But if you use up all of your sticky stamper paper, I also use it as a bib, and I'll just stick it down here and do something like that. Okay, I have my stamper here. And I think I am almost ready. Sorry, I realized I had ripped off the sticky stamper paper that I was planning to use to clean my stamper. So I needed to get another one. Okay, so let's go ahead with our straight up black, and we are gonna select this design here. And you're just gonna go ahead and cover the design with lots of black stamping polish. I prefer to cover the entire design in stamping polish when I am working with images that have a lot of solid etching like these images, because it makes it easier to get into all those crevices. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. Uh-oh. Oh no, I forgot to stamp the castle. Okay, I put that on the side, so we're gonna keep that on the side. And then I'm gonna go ahead and select a castle image. It looks like we're using, I think we're using this castle here. Yep, I believe so. So we're gonna take Honu, grab your castle image, make sure it doesn't have any of the other little bits that you don't want. Then stamp it in the center where your light blue is, just like that. Now we're gonna go ahead and see if this still transfers. I hope it does. Wish me luck. Oh, I think we're lucky. I think we got it. Yes, yay, we got it. It worked. Thank you for sending me all the wonderful stamping juju. If your design didn't go edge to edge, like, let me show you. Can you see that right there? Right along here, we have a little bit of that blank space. You can always take whatever didn't transfer and just stamp it there and fill that. So now it's completely covered and it's edge to edge. And this is our first design. Very simple. So all you had to do was the radial gradient and then stamp with Honu for your castle, and then you're gonna stamp the black over. So let me explain something about understanding perspective while we do this. And I'm gonna move on to the second design. So when you're working with perspective, sometimes it can be really tricky and you might have a difficult time kind of gauging what could be foreground or background. So when you're dealing with foreground, you're going to want to select colors that are darker because that's what's close up. When you're looking at something from a distance, usually the colors are lighter. So for example, you know when we sing, sorry, I'm like blanking. I'm trying to explain this, but when we say Purple Mountain's Majesty, when we're singing our national anthem, we say, have you guys ever wondered why we say purple mountains? We all know that mountains technically aren't purple because they're covered in green trees, green plants. So why is it that we always say purple? It's because when you look at a mountain from a distance, it looks purple. It doesn't look green. Even though we know it's covered in green plants, for some reason, the light and the distance, when you step back and look at a mountain, is purple. So when you're thinking about things way far away, they're lighter. And that's the reason why here we chose to use that same dark teal that we did for Radio Ombre, the Honu color, as the color in the distance, while everything up close is darker. It's almost like we're peeking through the trees, you know? Okay, so for the next design, I believe we have to use this image right here. So then we're gonna go ahead with our black stamping polish. And again, cover your whole design. In stamping polish. Specifically, for solid etched images, it will be so much easier for you to pick up. Oh, we have a boo-boo here. It'll be so much easier for you to pick up if the entire image is coated with polish. And sometimes you end up doing what I just did, and I dug the polish out the center. That was partially because I scraped in the wrong direction. So instead of scraping vertically, let's do horizontally. Oh. Let's see. I might still be able to pick it up. Ooh. Still not ideal. Okay. You guys get to see exactly what it's like to stamp. If it doesn't work the first time, try again and change your technique. So I'm going to try again, and maybe this time I'll scrape diagonally and see if that helps. Okay, I have a good feeling about this one. I had a good feeling about it. Okay. Let me clean it off and do it again. Don't get, it's very easy, even for myself, to get flustered when it doesn't want to transfer and all those things. But something I've noticed, if you are able to stay calm, the chances of getting a better pickup are higher than lower. So right now, it didn't want to cooperate with me. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make it work regardless. So I have a big weird gap here, which you all can see. But I also have all this black leftover bits. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fill those weird gaps with my leftover bits, because something that we're really fortunate about is that the top part of the design here, that outline, was filled in. The bottom part, if you look at it here on the plate, or when you're looking at the plate image, if you have it, this is supposed to be like grass. So that grass line came out perfectly fine. The outline here came out perfectly fine. It was just right in the center that didn't want to cooperate, and that's okay, because we have solutions on how to fix that. We're just going to use up all these weird bits, and we're just going to go ahead and cover up those weird little spots. And now we have exactly what we wanted. This was the image we were looking for, and now we have it. And if you didn't want to use the little weird bits on your stamper, the leftover bits, you can always just go ahead and take a detail brush and some polish and go ahead and fill that in. But again, if you can, don't lose patience. I even have a weird gap here. I have some black polish on my scraper card, so I'm just going to go ahead and literally just rub it all over that little spot, and now it's completely covered. You would never know. No one would ever guess that we had problems beforehand. So if you can, be solution oriented. It's okay to feel things you're feeling, but if you let the emotions win, you will have a much more difficult time snapping. And I say this as someone who has lost that battle so many times. But if you just like take a breath and keep trying and keep going, even if you have a lemon difficult, you can still turn it into something nice. So that is our design number 2. Now let's go ahead and move to our more complex designs. So our next design is going to use just a little reverse stamping. So we're going to go from least reverse stamping to the most reverse stamping. So we're going to go ahead and take this castle and stamp it with this teal color. And then you can go ahead and place it in the center or even a little further down. I did a little further down because it looks like I think we can get away with that. And then we're going to go ahead and use, say it's this image here. So we're going to have to clean that off. And we are going to do just some very slight reverse stamping. So go ahead and grab this image. Again, cover the whole thing with stamping polish to make your life a little easier. Pick it up. Perfect. Remove the junk that you don't want. And then we're going to take a detail brush. So I have a detail brush here. I believe this came in a Halloween box. Either it was a Halloween Mani by me or a countdown calendar. Oh, and I'm using, oh goodness, candy apple red. I'm just going to put some there. You could use whatever red you want. You could even use like a burnt orange color. But I'm using candy apple red today. Then we're going to go ahead and color in those flowers. So at the bottom of this stamped image, there are some little flower designs, and we're just going to go ahead and fill that. Then you're just going to be coloring your flowers. And at least it'll be easy to know which one the flowers are because they're usually, or I mean, they're all right at the bottom here. And then that's it. Then you can flip it over and you can see what your flowers look like. Very cute, right? So I think I have just a tiny little weird gap right here. I feel like this, even though it doesn't look like a flower, I'm gonna just pretend that they are. Because I think that makes more sense to me for the image. And then the trees are here. The trees are all up here on the sides here. So I even have one tiny little gap here. Then we can do something like that. I think the actual stamped image that you see on the product page, they don't use as much red for the flowers. I feel like they only selected a few flowers, but I decided to just paint them all red because I think it looks pretty. And then once that dries, we're gonna go ahead and stamp it on. So in the meantime, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use nail foil glue for this, and I'm actually just gonna put nail foil glue on these two already because we're gonna have to do more reverse stamping. So grab some nail foil glue. You can use sticky base if you want. I don't want to use the sticky base because I'm gonna talk and explain and all the, while doing all the reverse stamping. I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it now. So that way I do it once, I can forget about it, and I can just go about my business. Okay, so I'm gonna put there, put some here. Whoops. So you can see I am being very aggressive. And this nail foil glue, I don't like wasting things. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Even with the sticky stamper station, I like use every sheet to either work as a palette or just whatever the case is, or as a bib for my mat. So even with my nail foil glue, the nail foil glue I'm using is very old, and it has some, like, when it dries and it gets old, it'll have these little clumps in it because it's been exposed to air, so it's partially drying. But honestly, I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because I can just brush them off, and they really don't make that much of a huge difference, especially once we cover it up with polish. So some people are more picky and they'd be like, no, but if it's not broke, why fix it? And technically, I can still use it. It still does the job. So as you can see, I am someone who definitely reuses things to the very last bit. I mean, I've even showed you guys how to use a rip stamper. You've even seen me use rip stampers before in lives. There's so little things that will deter me from stamping. If I am determined to stamp with it, I will stamp with it. If I'm determined to use it, I will figure out a way. If that's the only option I have, then that's what I'll use. Or even if I have more options, I'll still end up using, what I have. So that is just me. But this here, I think this is still not dry enough because I put it on like 2 seconds ago. I really want it to be though, but I don't think it is. So if that's the case and we have to wait for that to dry, because I probably should have started with this one first, but we started with those first, I'm gonna grab another stamper and we're gonna work on the reverse stamping for another image. Go. I have another stamper right next to me. And I'm choosing to use the monocle or the ice cube for these images because I don't want there to be so much warping. Also, this stamper head, let's talk about this for a second. You can even see it on the plate. The flat side of the stamper head doesn't fully cover the entire image. So that means that if you're thinking about the domed side, yeah, let's see if I can hold this in place. Look at how much of the image is being covered. That's why I'm not using the double-ended for these larger images, and that's why I always prefer to use a monocle or an ice cube, because when you turn it to the side and you are stamping with it, the whole image is covered, and that's ideal. less warping, nice clean transfer. You won't have as many issues. No, that's still way too wet. I would prefer that it's more tacky. Okay, so let's move on to working on the reverse stamp design for our next image. We're going to go with this one right here. And again, you're going to use straight up black. Just cover the whole thing. Well, yes, it may seem like such a waste of stamping polish to be covering the whole image. You want to know something else that's also a waste? Yeah, that's not a great pickup. Another thing that's a waste is using only a little stamping polish and realizing you still didn't get a great pickup and now you got to redo it again. So either way, sometimes with the polish part, you know, things happen. As you see, even with me, things happen. And that's okay. We're just going to keep trying. Ah, much better. Yeah, I think so. Yep. That looks pretty good. So now you're going to go ahead and again color your flowers red. So I need a little bit more of this red polish, and let me move this out of the way so that way you guys can see. Then we're just going to color those flowers in. So light tapping motions to color just the flowers. Looks like there's some plant foliage, but we're not going to color that. Just these flowers that are right around the leaves. Because again, this is up close. Here we go. And if something ever bothers you with an image, try to look and see. Like, let me look at this again. Because I'm looking at the image in reverse. So for example, I think this image is missing just a few pieces. Some black parts. You can just go ahead and either make it like what you see on the stamper, you can just go ahead and do something else. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in how I see fit, because why not? Who's going to know? And even if it's not perfect, if 80% of the ideas there, even less than that, I feel like if 70% of the concept still looks similar, most people aren't going to be able to put two and two together that like, oh, it's not exactly the same. And if they are, they might need to think about getting some new hobbies. Because, I mean, it's art. You can kind of do whatever you want. Who's going to stop you? Who's going to tell you no? Not me. I'm not going to tell you no. I'm not going to tattle. And I figured you wouldn't either. So Again, I had some weird gaps that I didn't like, and I just decided to fix it. Instead of trying to re-stamp it, we're just gonna go ahead, just do our own thing here. And it's still gonna look so much like that finished image that you all really, really like. Okay, I think, whoops, while we let that one dry, this should be good. Yeah, this is nice and tacky. So let's go ahead and transfer that image. Oh, beautiful. Are you getting this? And that is our third design. Then now let's work on our next design. I want to do the reverse stamping for this one first because this one has significantly more reverse stamping. So I'm going to hold off on this. And even though I think I could reverse stamp or stamp it now, I'm going to hold off and we're going to go ahead and do the reverse stamping for this last image because that one is a lot more involved. And then we'll do the rest after that. So perfect. Love the way that picked up. Okay, so grab your, move this out of the way. Grab your red again. If you have a bunch of stampers, the other way you could do this is you could literally just like stamp all three and put them on the stampers and do the reverse stamping all at one time. That's another way you could do it if you're trying to be very time efficient. Since we're just hanging out and I figured you guys are here with me, I am taking things a bit slower. But I don't know, maybe next time I will try that approach. We'll do everything at one go so that way they all kind of have time to dry. And then I don't have to put so many little dots of polish down. Okay, I think we need more. So again, you're just painting the roses, not the leaves. We're gonna leave the leaves empty. I think that's it. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oop, 7. Okay, I think, yep, I think we got all the roses. So we'll let that dry. Then we're gonna switch gears. We have to pick up our castle images and then we're gonna stamp them. So let's go ahead and select our castle. So for the next image, it seems like the castle is a little bit off-centered. And we're going to be using, give me 1 second. I want to say it's this castle image. Yeah, this castle image, and then this castle image. Wait, this one. Okay, so we're going to be using these two next. So let's stamp this one first. So it seems like when this was stamped, it's stamped slightly to the right. So that way the hanging branches that you're gonna see when we stamp our foreground will show through. So I'm gonna stamp it slightly off to the right side. Or left, yeah, right side, right side. So just slightly off-centered, like that. Now, we're gonna go over here, and you see right now the branches look on the right, but when we flip it, it's gonna be on the left. We can have it slightly off-centered. There we go. Lovely. Oh, oops. There you go. Okay, now let's do our next castle. I believe I said it was this one here. I think it's a small castle. I'm gonna turn the plate. And then we're gonna pick up this image, and this is also gonna be, we're gonna center that one. So we're gonna put this right in the center here. And again, if you ever struggle with centering your designs, close one eye. That's every single time I stamp and I have to center, my eye is usually closed. Oh, maybe I misjudged this. I think I was supposed to put it further down. Oh well. We're just gonna have to make it work. So I might have made a mistake here. I should have probably moved the castle down a little bit further. However, I feel like we can fix it. Again, if it didn't turn out exactly like how you wanted, it's okay. Don't panic. We're just gonna add little bits and pieces after. So I'm gonna go ahead and move all this stuff out of the way. Look at this. Instead of having to clean up black off my mat, we all know how fun that is. All I had to do is rip that up, and now we don't have to deal with all of that. I am gonna take a little bit of this teal polish, and we're just gonna go ahead and fill in here. We're just gonna go ahead and fill in this part because I don't want it to look like my castle is floating. If you like that look, that's fine. I don't want that look. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the little bits that are missing. Now, who would guess? Now it looks just like the inspo image. And this is the completed look. Let me see if I can show you guys. So again, we went from easiest to hardest, which is this design, I want to say. But I think it turned out really well. Wish you guys could see it in person because I feel like it's a lot brighter in person. On the camera, it looks a little bit darker, but it's very, very clear what the perspective is when I'm looking at it. And I maybe you guys can tell. Like, remember all these little details that we filled in and we faked? How would anyone know? It still came out looking great. And I like that we kind of moved that castle to the right just a bit so that way these hanging vines can still kind of show and not interrupt the image of the castle. So again, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 for this entire look, I would say maximum difficulty level, 10 being like you have to reverse stamp every single thing, every single color. You need like 15 colors. This is going to be on a level 3 to 5 for the reverse stamping at least, you know? And then these are definitely on level like, okay, these two here, level 3. I take it back. I'm going to say reverse stamping was like a level 4 because there was reverse stamping and we had to do radial ombre. And I think that can be a little tricky if you're not used to it, but try the tricks that I mentioned with this. Wet your stamper and just create a rectangle and then put a bunch of the light color in the center and it'll make it easy. See? So I hope you guys were able to follow along, and if you had any questions and I missed it, please forgive me. I was very, very focused on this demo. I know that the A-team has always been there trying to help out, take care of you guys, and answer questions that I might have missed. But if not, we do take a look at the comments later. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun with this live. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys can stay up to date with all the videos that we launch because I know we love to hang out and chat. And yeah, have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit later.